Summary from Louise Batchelor.
Good evening. Labour Party leader Michael Foot has repudiated the left-wing candidate chosen for a London constituency. In a surprise move, Kurt Waldheim has pulled out of the United Nations elections for Secretary-General. And the big four high street banks cut interest rates for the third time in 6 weeks. Now these and other stories with subtitles. Mr. Michael Foot tonight publicly repudiated the man chosen to be Labour's prospective parliamentary candidate for Bermondsey. Left-winger Peter Tatchell was chosen by the local Labour Party to stand for the safe seat after the Chief Whip, Bob Mellish, announced his resignation. In the House of Commons, Mr. Foot told MPs Mr. Tatchell would never be endorsed as a Labour candidate. The Seychelles government has called for a United Nations investigation into last week's attempted coup by white mercenaries. President Albert Rene, convinced the coup was backed by South Africa, has asked Fidel Castro, as chairman of the non-aligned countries, to support him. In South Africa itself, it's been suggested that the 39 mercenaries released after escaping from the Seychelles were South African police or soldiers on leave. Kurt Waldheim has asked the United Nations Security Council not to include his name in further balloting for the post of Secretary-General. Mr. Waldheim has already served 2 5-year terms and had been seeking an unprecedented third term. For the third time in 6 weeks, the big four high street banks have reduced the cost of borrowing. The National Westminster, Barclays, Lloyds and the Midland have reduced their base lending rate to 14.5% from 15%. The rate paid to depositors comes down to 12.5%, and in Midland's case, 0.25% less. The Law Lords have reserved their judgment on whether the Labour-controlled Greater London Council acted illegally over bus and tube fares. Bromley Council claimed a sixpence in the pound rates levy by the GLC to pay for the 25% fares cut was illegal. Lord Denning in the appeal court on November the 10th ruled against the GLC, which appealed to the Law Lords. They say they'll give a decision in the case in due course, and that should be in about 2 weeks. A man who murdered 4 people in the space of 13 days has been sent to prison for life by a judge at the Old Bailey. Michael Jameson, aged 23, was found guilty of torturing and then murdering an elderly couple last year in London. A few days after what the judge described as a loathsome and revolting killing, Jameson again committed murder. He and a friend, Robert Anderson, shot dead the owner of a shoe shop and his nephew during an armed robbery. Anderson was also sent to prison for life, with a recommendation that he should serve at least 20 years. Underwater missile testing has been brought to a halt at the Navy base on the west coast of Scotland at Kyle of Lochalsh. It's because of a strike involving 54 civilians who man auxiliary ships, which work in the 60-square-mile torpedo range. P&O seamen have decided to call off the sit-in on board the Ulster Queen and Ulster Prince, the 2 Liverpool to Belfast ferries. They'll leave the ships tomorrow after an agreement by P&O to pay them until the service is reopened by another firm. In Newsnight tonight at 10:45, we look at the cash crisis in Britain's universities, how cuts are affecting their work, how student numbers will be reduced, and how students who are at university will have to put up with a very real decrease in their living standards. Also on education, the Americans take Darwin to court. Next Monday, the state of Arkansas will be defending a statute which forces schools to teach the biblical account of creation in biology lessons. We talk to David Attenborough and to a British scientist who will be a witness in the case. That's in Newsnight at 11:15. Now a look at the weather chart.
Well, Scotland will have a colder but brighter day tomorrow with some sunshine, but in the north, scattered showers as well. England, Wales and Northern Ireland will start dull and wet, but Northern Ireland and Northern England will have brighter weather during the morning, and Wales and Southern England too will brighten up later in the day, the weather turning colder as the brighter weather arrives. And that's the weather picture. In a moment, Living on the Land, and at 8:30, Russell Harty, whose guests tonight are Dame Anna Neagle, Celeste Holm and the Kingsingers. At 9 o'clock, the end of those happy endings, starring Peter Skellern. This last programme in the series is set on Christmas Eve. At 9:30, 40 Minutes presents a profile of 18-year-old Alison French, who was born a spastic, but who has, through courage and determination, achieved independence. At 10:10, a cameo portrait of Snowdonia, followed at 10:20 by more drama in World's End, when Camille has a lot of explaining to do. Newsnight is at 10:45, followed at 11:30 by the Old Grey Whistle Test. Studio guests include Gary U.S. Bonds. Well, that's tonight's lineup of programmes here on BBC